Okay, good morning. Let us resume our discussion. So what did we discuss in the last class? Can you give a couple of points before I start and discuss? And if you have any questions in the last class discussion, please discuss them. Okay, what did we discuss in the last class? Yeah, Hari, you want to tell something?
GANs.
Yes.
Adversarial matrix.
We discussed about
GANs.
GANs, generative adversarial networks. Okay. So fine. What's the difference between GANs and the conventional convolution neural networks?
GANs will be having the generative and discriminative approach rather than conventional model of CNN.
Fine. So any other points to mention from the last class? Prabhat or anyone else?
So we have discussed about autoencoders.
Yeah, we discussed about autoencoders. Okay. And then generative adversarial networks. Okay. So any other points? Any other questions or doubts you have on the last class? So if you ask me to quickly discuss anything in from the last class, I can discuss. Otherwise, I will move on to the discussion on to the next topic, that is recurrent neural networks.
Yes, sir. So
Yeah.
a small question about GANs only.
Right.
You mentioned that in previously the generator does not have the it does not look at the image. Only the discriminator looks at the label image, and generator simply generates.
Right.
So and you also mentioned that it's different from fundamentally from convolutional neural networks. But
Right.
how will we actually train this, sir? So the training process was a little unclear on the previous time.
Okay. So as we discussed, generator doesn't look at the image because generator like there is a function of generator is to generate the image itself, and that too not directly looking at the image, and discriminator function is to assess in a critic manner to improve the generator, but in a like game theoretic framework or in a critic manner. So we have now two networks as such to train. One network is the generator network, okay, and the other network is the discriminator network. So both have to be coherently trained, okay. So it's in sense that one after the other. So when we want to train them like that, so we have a cost function, one for generator, like the cost function encompasses both discriminator and generator. So, but as we can see, the cost function can be used for training the generator ones and the discriminator ones. If you see the overall cost function that we have written in the last class, what is there in the last lines? This is the overall cost function. Okay. And when we explicitly see here what the cost function for the generator and what the cost function for the discriminator, okay, we can see that the like in this we can separate the cost corresponding to discriminator only, and then the cost term corresponding to generator, training the generator. Okay, so if you see here, generator is only here, okay, which is in the second part of the cost function here. So what we need to do is we need to minimize this with respect to theta z or maximize this. Okay, with rest, if we don't do this 1 minus of, so ln of d of g of z. So what essentially we are doing in the discriminator is this is the expectation over all the possible z, okay, that comes from p of z, okay, from the noise distribution. Okay, so essentially what here we are doing is we are trying to, when training the generator, maximizing with respect to theta z, when training the generator, we are trying to see that it generates images that are like that can be ascertained by discriminator as correct ones. Okay, that's the role of generator. generator tries to say that it can generate the images that are indistinguishable to the discriminator as the true images. Okay, so that's the role of generator. While discriminator, if we see cost function, okay, it also maximizes theta d, okay, discriminator parameters. It has two terms. The one role is ln of what it does, the discriminator has to be trained in such a way that the true image, if it gives, it should have a probability of 1. Okay, that's one thing. So that's actually the expectation over the images generated from the true distribution P of X. Okay, and this is one part of the cost function. The second part of the cost function is it need to say that whatever the it has to be very critically look at the generated images, and in critically looking at it maps the generated image to 0. So in sense that ln of 1 minus, okay, so d of g of x. So as you can see here, what we are doing essentially is since we are maximizing this, okay, so maximizing this means that you are trying to say that so you are mapping this to whatever you have here to 0. Okay, so this one we are bringing the probability to 1 and this probability to 0. Okay, so that's what we are doing. So and this also from so sorry, this is g of z. Right. So these are the cost functions with which we're trying. Okay. So one pass for discriminator, one pass for the generator. Yeah. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions before we conclude on the GANs? Okay. So I will just discuss one more aspect which was not discussed well or not spent time in the last class, and then move on to the recurrent neural networks. So one kind of GANs, as we discussed, are cyclic GANs. The aim of cyclic GANs is to generate one kind of image from like the other kind of image. So here horse to zebra, okay, and then zebra to horse. The what cyclic GANs does is, see, anyway you have the ground truth zebra when you want to generate zebra to horse. So and then you are generating horse here. From the horse, what we can do is we can make a cyclic consistency check with another generator generating the zebra back. So here what you have is generated zebra on one side, okay, and then the actual zebra on the other side. These two can be given to the discriminator to see whether you are getting the correct zebra or not. Okay, so in some sense what this generator is useful is to generate the zebra to horse, okay, and this generator is useful for generating the horse to zebra, but both generators get a cyclic consistency check in the sense that it tries to generate this and tries to generate this. Okay, so 2 times you are using the generators, G and GB you are using both, and then cross checking the both, you are providing the input as zebra and trying to provide see the output is zebra or not. Okay, after this. Similarly, here you are looking at the, say this will horse is the input here. You can generate zebra to horse again and see the original compare with respect to the original horse through this discriminator. Okay, so in that sense, what happens is both generators get the training from 2 different paths. One path is directly for it, another path is like whether it is able to reproduce the in a cyclic consistency manner or not. Okay, so through this we can generate not only from the noise distribution, from one image distribution to another image distribution, while both are unknown. Okay, so this is a more challenging task because this distribution is very complex and unknown, and other image distribution is also complex and unknown. That they could achieve through the cyclic consistency and then training in cyclic manner in this cyclic GAN. Okay, so any questions here? Okay, if there are no questions, let me move on to the discussion on the recurrent neural networks. Okay, so what do you know about recurrent neural networks? So far, if we see CNNs, what's the limitation of CNNs? Or what aspects of, say, real problems that CNNs cannot handle?
Kind of time series problem. Like,
Yeah, can you expand a little bit?
like if I give a translation, like a language translation, kind of
Right.
like
Right. Also, the problems wherever you have actually a sequence to sequence. Modeling. Okay, CNNs will not be able to do a good job, or they are not very fit for it. The architecture wise, what CNNs does is, a CNN is basically feature extractor. Okay, followed by some kind of either you can reconstruct or you can probably classify and so on. Okay, but for mapping sequence to sequence, say for example, if you want to translate one language to other language, or if you want to answer a question, okay, so what we should have is, we should have a sequence, initial sequence. So let that be, say, start from X1, X2. Okay, each is a word or a letter or a character. Okay, assume that X1, X2, and so on up to say XD. So now these are not the features, but these are the words or characters. This is a sequence now. Okay, just if you want actually different symbol, we can give XN. And from this sequence, we may wish to get another sequence Y1, okay, Y2, and so on up to YM. This M and N need not be same. Okay, N need not be equal to M, or M need not be equal to N. Fine, because actually if I ask a question, you can answer a single word answer. Or if I ask a small question with a couple of 4 or 5 words, you may answer with an essay answer. Okay, with more than 100 words or sentences. So this sequence lengths need not be same. So this is one input sequence in some sense. This is output sequence. Examples for this is, as one of you mentioned, this is machine translation. Any other examples where you need sequence to sequence modeling? Any other examples?
Analysis of videos.
Analysis of videos are classifying each frame in the video, for example. Say in each frame, I want to tell whether there is a human or not. Okay, or if I want to tell actually whether in each frame is there any anomaly situation or not. Okay, or is there any say particular objects or not. So or for each frame I want to give a caption. Okay, so these are all these examples. So video, it can be video captioning or frame level classification. Okay, any other examples? This is an example where many inputs to many outputs. Here also roughly same, many inputs and many outputs. Okay, any other examples, other kind of examples? So here the difference between these two is in machine translation, the first one, if I am giving in one language, the whole sentences I have to utter, that the whole sentence I have to utter, then only the output starts coming. Okay, but whereas here in frame level classification and so on, what may happen is for each input X1, you may have an output Y1. Similarly, X2, Y2. Okay, and then X3, Y3. This is the kind of, say, this is many to many, this is also many to many, but this is a kind of first you encode information and then decode information. Okay, so this is also many to many, but first encode and then decode. In sense that first encode the sequence. Okay, and then using that encoded information, you decode the answer. Okay, so video captioning can also be considered as the kind of that. Or frame level captioning, if you are doing again this kind of. Okay, for each you will have many answers. See frame like image captioning. Image captioning is what kind of like input output sequence. So you have actually an image, whole image at once. Okay, let this be x corresponding to feature vector x or x1. From this, what we need to get the output is, so y1, y2, and so on ym. So m set of words as the caption. Okay, so here one single input, one to many. Is this fine?
Sir, can't we actually
Oh.
make this 1-to-1 and say every image will get one caption?
For each frame, you can get one caption, fine, but you can't give a sentence it as a single answer, right? Usually what we do is while like encoding and decoding operations, whether we encode the letters or we encode the words. Okay, so we can't encode the sentences because what happens, there are large number of sentences and we can't, each combination we can't make to give the answer. But in an image, what I may know that here is a person or here is a cat or here is a car and so on. Okay, so using those information, I will be able to give that cat, car and person has to come in the like decoding. And also I will also know that the combination, how they are, one is on the other, top of other, or some relation. Okay, based on that I can formulate a sentence. So it's like one to many. Because a single output neuron will not be able to give the whole answer. That's the idea. So many means how many output neurons we are using. So many here indicates the number of output neurons and one here indicates number of input neurons. Is this clear?
Yes, sir. Sir, one more doubt.
Yeah.
Sir, in recurrent neural network, so we have multiple neurons and multiple neurons will give multiple outputs.
Right.
Okay, sir.
So any other kind of examples? Even if you have many things, you may have a single answer. See, complete video captioning, if I see, or say video classification, more easy, more correct or simple to understand answer for many to one kind of RN, recurrent neural network, is videos classification. So this is frame level classification, whichever we have discussed here. This is video classification. I just want to tell whether this is a, say for example, a movie, or whether it is a horror movie or different kind of movie and so on. Okay, so in that case, it's just a single caption or single output neuron will describe it. Okay, but many input frames will be there. Okay, similarly for any like video classification task, we need actually many frames, but the output is one. So is there a event occurred or not? Yes or no kind of answers. Okay, so for that you can even say, even in like this is conversation or chatbot kind of scenarios where you can have actually single answer. Okay, yes or no. Okay, so kind of if we just program such that only gives a single word answer. Okay, then do you like it or not? Yes or no kind of thing, or whatever. So then it is a multiple inputs and single output. Okay, so this is many to one. So these are different ways in which we can like the architecture of RNNs can be based on the application need of the application. So essentially what happens in recurrent neural networks, other like that is different from convolutional neural networks is, so there are recurrent connections. Okay, so in the sense that if we just see a single block, so I just try to
Adios, amigo. Powering on.
so assume that there is some input. Okay, so x1, and then the x1 is sent through some like feed forward or fully connected layer. So just to give a picture, x1 anywhere wherever we represent with a vector like u or whatever. Okay, so it means that, so if I'm getting x2, say yes, for example, this implies that pictorially, so there are some set of features for x1 corresponding to x1, x1 to x1d. Okay, x1d. And these set of features are connected to the output S1. Again, S1 also has a set of features in it, or a set of values in it, S1 to Sn, for example. Okay, and it is a fully connected neural network. Okay, that's what we mean. Fine. So hope you understand. So if I just show by this arrow and with some matrix, okay, matrix indicates that it's a fully connected layer. Fine. And usually what we do is we indicate the variables in boxes. Okay, so it can be other way also. So the connections can be in boxes, and then the variables can be outside. It just depends upon the representation. So if I assume that U is here, okay, and relating to the state S, for example, or whatever, S1. So it's a fully connected layer. And from here, what we have, we may have another thing, V, and this gives rise to the output Y. Y also may have again a feature vector or the output vector. Okay, so please note that usually for any machine translation kind of problems, what we do is, if we have a letter, English character letter, or any letter, any language letter or whatever, or a word, we convert first from word to vector. Okay, so there are some guided by NLP and a little bit of machine learning aspects. There are some procedures, standard procedures, through which we can convert a word to a vector, because we are familiar only handling the vectors and the values, or the numerical values in all these recurrent neural networks or CNNs. So the word to vector, getting the word to vector is a standard procedure we assume, or we take from a standard package or the procedure, okay, algorithm. And we start here itself from a vector. Say, even if I say I, this I in English will become a vector. Say it may be, say if I have only a particular letters, by my objective is to predict the next letter in a word. Then it can be easily, the encoding process can be, encoding and decoding process can be easily seen. But if my objective is to predict a word itself, then this word to vector conversion is very essential. Okay, so assume that, just to understand. So if we would like to start with say a hello, for example, either small letters or capital letters we can fix a priori. Okay, and then each of them, say for example, we have actually in our code vectors or code letters, we may start with say H, E, L, O, and end of, okay, end of line. So EOL kind of thing. End of line is EOL. This is also a particular code, because we have to see where the end of word or end of line happens. Okay, so end of line or end of word. So we can say that just end. Okay, so now we can give a initial say codes to this. Say this one. So whenever H comes, so H is 1 0 0 0 0. Okay, whenever O comes, the letter O, okay, is equal to what? So if we arrange, this is a code book or code letters, if we consider, O will be represented by 0 0 0 1 0. Okay, and end will be represented by 0 0 0 0 1. Okay, so hope you people understand how we are encoding the letters to vectors. Okay, so now input feature vector, now it's like a one hot encoding. So now input feature, now if I want to give the, if I want to start with the first letter as the input, predicting the second letter, that if that is my objective in a recurrent neural network, then what I do, I start with H. H means what? It's a vector. Okay, so 1 0 0 0 0. Okay, this is where I start with, and I want to predict what? E. Okay, So I want to predict E here. E means what? How the prediction should be? I know that E is 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. This is what the prediction should be. Or 0, 0. These many zeros are there. 4, 5. Yeah, I think it's fine. Okay, so this is what the prediction should be. But when we just send it through a feed forward kind of network, it may not predict this. There will be some error. So one important thing in recurrent neural networks compared to feed forward neural network or the convolutional neural networks is to have recurrent connections, as we said. So a recurrent connection can be shown in two different ways. One way is just show like this. What is this? This is W. That means we are predicting the next state from the previous state through a fully connected layer again. Okay, state to state. Okay, and then what happens? The next state comes, then the input X2 will come. Okay, and then it predicts Y2 through state S2. So just to show it, since we have written X1, S1 more explicitly with the first state and so on. Okay, if we don't write 1, 1, 1 here, then what I have shown is good enough. Okay, with W. Since I have shown with the explicit first state, second state, and so on, we assume that we start from 0th state. Yes, not. Okay, and then we already use this W. This W is again, if I write W means matrix W means fully connected network there. Okay, and again W will be used here to move on to the second state. Okay, so here, yes, S2, right? And then for this, what I need to predict is E, but I might have predicted L here, assume that. Okay, so my prediction, usually what happens if I predict something, so predicted probabilities, if I apply softmax layer and cross entropy loss, etc. Okay, so there will be some loss. So here I may use L1. So this L1 is the loss at the first output neuron. Okay, or first set of output neurons. Okay, at the first state output, like in the first stage of recurrent neural network. Okay, our first time step. Okay, here time step comes because we are doing in steps. Okay, we are not doing the whole thing at once. Whatever is the output here, that I may be using sometimes to give as the input to the next layer. Okay, so this may come as input here. Okay, so this is way we can have the predictions by recurrent neural networks, and better you make use of the sequence. Okay, because after H, E has to come if we want to make a meaningful word. Okay, so like that, we know the database of words, and from that we can pick which are the meaningful words and so on. Okay, and through learning it learns. Okay, so and this, when prediction happens, this may not be say 0, the E has to come, like it has to come like this, but the predicted values may be somewhat different, 0.8, okay, say 1.2, 2.5, 0.3, 0.1, and so on. So it's essentially predicting what? It is predicting L instead of E. Okay, so it's not correct. So there will be an error. So this is the truth, ground truth in some sense. This is the predicted. And then we can formulate the error L1. And with that we back propagate and do that. But what may happen when I predict some value here? Okay, so that will come and sit actually, that will become the X2. Okay, and this goes again through same U. See, the why we are using the same feed forward, same weight matrices is since we do not know how many stages we need to learn, or how many say different words will have different length. We don't know a priori the sequence length. Input sequence length we don't know. Output sequence length also we will not know. So are the letters, how many letters to end for a word? We don't know in this application. So many applications in the sequence to sequence modeling demands that you don't know a priori the lengths of the sequences. And the there is a sequence in the sense that one previous prediction also will affect the current, and then we can also be input for the current. Okay, and then you can sometimes you may have an additional input as well. Okay, so and then you try to predict text. So now if we make the next prediction, so what we may have actually here, we may get Y2. right? And this y2, what it has to be actually is L has to come, but it may come something else. So from here, what we do? Again, we have actually L. So here, L2, right? And then you may have actually the next state. Okay, S3. And for this, there is again an input. That may be this itself may come as input. Okay, and then X3. And so on. This repeats till you get the end of word here. Okay, Y3. And so on. So you can consider all as subscripts. Okay, this is how the architecture of recurrent neural networks will be. Sometimes, as I said, this is many to many kind of recurrent neural network. Okay, it can also be many to one. So after whole input learning happens, only one output, say neuron or output stage will be there, time step will be there where you are predicting the output. Okay, let it be output word or a letter or whatever. Okay, value also you can predict. Classification label. Okay, is this clear? Any questions on this? Okay, so then in this case, if I have four, for example, if I assume that if I have 4 stages, okay, then the total loss will be what? What will be the total loss? Yeah, any quick answer you people are following or not?
The sum of all losses.
Yeah, if you have any questions or doubts on this, please ask now. Okay, sum of all losses. Okay, very good. So the total loss now, if you consider, the total loss will be sum of all losses. Okay, so L is equal to L1 plus L2 plus L3 plus L4. Okay, this is how the loss is. So as we mentioned, this has the additional recurrent connections. That means that each state depends upon the previous state to the same relation. Okay, so and hence the back propagation equations will also be not very simple, because see, if I am back propagating error at this stage, for example, or at this time step, see, this S4 is a function of, say, S3, and this is a function of W, and S3 is also a function of S2, and this is a function of W. So again, say it's say in some sense it has to go back till S0 or S1, okay, and take all W's into account while updating S4 itself. Okay, so that our S2, when we want to update, all these things has to come. So like this, the back propagation of one state, okay, or one W involves the back propagation of W, single parameter W, involves all state, okay, values, okay, and then gradients at all states in some sense. Okay, so to update this. However, updating here, back propagation here are reasonably straightforward. Okay, which we can write now, okay, through a simple set of equations. So now let us bring in some of the mathematics to help us in writing the back propagation equations and so on. See, anyway, L we have written, L1 if I want to write. Okay, L1 if I want to write. Anyway, let's use cross entropy loss. So then what we may do, so Ln of YC of 1. Okay, so YC is actually correct label. Assume that in this, if I am writing L1, Y, say Cth feature, which is the correct corresponding to 1 hat encoding, okay, will come. And then minus ln of, because it's a loss function, right? As you can see here. So now Y1 is the predicted probability. So the output value, if we itself is the predicted probability, if we bring in softmax and so on. So these will be in, say, you can put these values instead of numbers. In put these in probabilities. Okay, and then you can write the cross entropy loss. Fine. So now see, this is the last fine. So now if I want to relate y1, okay, so if I want to write any S1, for example, is equal to or y1 in terms of S1. How should I write? Y1 in terms of S1. S1 into V into S1. Correct? Or Yk is equal to V into Sk. Is this fine? And you may have sometimes an activation function to bring this. So f of. So this can be sigmoid activation function, or it can be another activation function. Okay, tan hyperbolic activation function. Usually in the output, they may use tan hyperbolic activation function in between sigmoid activation function. Okay, for recurrent neural networks. So we just leave it as f, but you know that to simplify our even discussions and then computations later, I may use without activation function as well.
Sir, small question.
Yeah, please ask, Prabhat.
Yes, sir. So if why do we actually need an activation function here, sir? Because ultimately we're going to pick the output with the maximum probability, right? So we don't have to eliminate, if we're using ReLU function, say, we don't have to eliminate the lesser.
See, what's the role of activation function? See, mapping between input and output may not be very simple. So it may be nonlinear mapping. So to enable that, we need the nonlinear activation functions.
Yes, sir. But we still, when we calculate the loss, we only pick the output that is of the highest value, right? So even if we perform a transformation, it doesn't change very much.
See, you have actually two layers here. It's not in sense that if it is single layer, then it doesn't change. But you have two layers, right? So it's a fully connected network with a hidden layer. Assume that this is, if you just even consider it a single time step, okay, of an RNN. So this is a input layer, hidden layer, and then output layer. So you have actually hidden layer here. So if you have actually two activation functions working at one at hidden layer, one at output layer. And hence, this is a nonlinear mapping from input to output.
Yes, sir. Yes.
If you have single layer only, then what you are saying is correct. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So now if you want to relate the input and the state, then how do we relate? So here, say Sk is equal to, again, some other activation function. Okay, sigmoid or whatever. This is the activation function into our activation function within that. What is the net value we get? The state, if you want, u into x1 or xk, right? Where u is a matrix. Please note that. So if we write the dimensions, say if we write xk as d cross 1, okay, and sk as n cross 1, and then yk as m cross 1, okay, then the dimensions of others can be written. So as you can see here, the dimension of u is n cross d. Okay, these dimensions will be important because later when we discuss about the backpropagation, dimensions will help us, or at least to help enable us to check whatever we are writing the backpropagation equations correct or wrong. Okay, so this is n cross 1, and this is m cross 1, and this is m cross n. Okay, hope these things are clear. So when I derive the backpropagation, I will leave usually using the activation functions because for the simplicity of the derivations. Okay, if you have activation functions, you can anyway introduce corresponding backpropagation. Right? So now one more thing we have to write. What is the other one we have to write? Relation. So this is one relation. This is the second relation. And third relation, is this correct? State, we have to write something else for the state. See, current state is only, is it function of input or is it function of anything else?
Previous state.
Yeah, previous state also. So we have to write that also. Sk is equal to function of, okay, u times xk plus what? W times sk minus 1. Right? So we can see that U is anyway dimension. So N cross D. Okay, and then W is of dimension what? N cross N, right? And this F is optional here. Okay, so this is the input relation, input to state relation and state to output relation. And based on input to state and like output, we can get the loss function. Once the loss function is there, we can get the total loss. Okay, so this is how the forward flow of the network in a given time step. Same thing happens at each of these time steps. That's all. Is it
Excuse me,
clear?
like, sir, I have one doubt. Like, how do we get the S naught, sir?
Yes, not.
S,
Yeah, we
Like-
assume we start with something.
okay, randomly.
So I think they start with 0 itself. Here. So 0 is also fine, I think, because you have this, right? Yeah. They start with something. Right. Okay. So now this is how the framework is. Now let us see some simple back propagations. Okay. So then let us see tomorrow a few other things. So now let me write the set of equations. So L1 plus L2 plus L3 plus L4. Okay. And then in the recurrent neural network, just take the figure, whatever we have here. Okay. And then what we have is YK. So first we can write that LK, any LK is equal to minus ln of YK. Let's see feature of it, where which is correct feature. And YK is equal to what? YK is V times SK. And then SK is equal to, say F of, I am leaving F of just to write back propagation equation simply now. U times xk plus W times sk minus 1. Okay, these are the set of equations we have. Okay, forward equations in RNN. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to do back propagation. So while writing back propagation, say essentially we want to update W. What all we want to update? W, okay, W and V. So let's write anyway, updating U, V and W, all are matrices. So writing matrix derivative are little complex as we know. So let's first write some simple derivatives, which are vector derivatives. Okay, so loss by vector derivatives. So corresponding to this, whichever helps. So dou L by dou Y, first let us write. Okay, so dou L by dou Y can be YK, you can easily write by this. So it's essentially dou LK by dou YK, because corresponding loss only play a role, and this can be written from the softmax. So we are just leaving it. We write just this as delta YK. Okay, but the dimension of it we will write just for future further discussions. So it is, what is the dimension of this? M cross 1. Is this fine? Dou L by dou YK is M cross 1, because YK is M cross 1. Right or not?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now let us write dou L by dou, say SK. Dou L by dou SK we want to write. So here we have actually dou L by dou YK, because SK is in YK. Okay, first we have to write this, and then dou SK by dou, sorry, dou YK by dou SK. So what's the answer for this? Dou LK by dou YK, we just write dou delta YK. And then this dou YK by dou SK is how much? Can one of you quickly tell here by looking at this? Dou YK by dou SK is how much? You have YK and SK relation here. Dou
V
YK
transpose.
SK. Huh?
V transpose.
Very good. V transpose. Okay, you can see here, this is M cross 1 and V is M cross N. So this is N cross M. Okay, and then essentially delta Sk is what we are seeing here, which is equal to N cross 1. So it agrees with respect to the dimensions. Okay, so now dou L by dou Xk also let us write just for completeness. Okay, so dou L by dou Sk is how do we write? Dou L by dou Yk again, and then dou L by, so dou Yk by, so why I'm writing from this side? Dou Yk by, why I'm writing this side, not this side, while writing this? Dou Lk by dou Sk, right? And then dou Sk by dou Xk. Okay, I'm just writing chain rule, but I'm visualizing the computational graphs while writing this. That's why I'm writing from this side. If you write the computational graph, if forward relations all will be like this and backward relation will be like this. Okay, so you have to put them at appropriate places. Okay, so now what is this? Delta Yk, and dou Yk by dou Sk is how much? V transpose. And then dou Sk by dou Xk is how much? Dou Sk by dou Xk is how much? Yay, Hari? Dou Sk by dou Xk. Yeah, Deepanshu? Dou Sk by dou Xk is how much?
U transpose.
Yeah. Okay, so you have actually, if you see now again the dimensions. Okay, so this is a up to here it is N cross 1. Okay, and then this is D cross N. Okay, because U is N cross D. Okay, and hence it is fine. So this is delta Xk, which is actually D cross 1. It is fine. Okay, so like that we can write the back propagation equations. But now more importantly, what we need actually back propagation of dou L by, okay, dou, let's write dou V. Okay, dou L by dou V we want to write. Just write actually one after the other, some of the matrix derivatives. So can one of you tell, how should I write dou L by dou V? Just look at this, dou L by dou V I have to write. Okay, how should I write? Dou L1 by dou V here essentially. In this, I want to update now V. So how should I write? Dou L1 by dou V. Yeah, how should I write?
Dou L1 by dou Y1.
Okay.
Then dou Y1 by dou V.
See, assume that anyway I have it. So dou L1 by dou, I can write in terms of a matrix expanding this and so on. Okay, but is there a simple procedure? If I want to update update this gradients of this matrix or this fully connected layer, okay, is there a simple procedure for it? I want to update the connections of this fully connected layer. Okay, what is the principle by which we can do that? There is some simple rule, right? Where if we have fully connected layer, we can apply that and then easily update the gradients of all the weight elements or the connections. None of you remember?
Yeah, error at the output into the
Right.
input.
Error at the output multiplied by the input. So here, what is the error at the output? So error at the output is nothing but dou L by dou Y, okay, Yk, whatever. So if you are considering K here, Yk. Right? This is the error at the output multiplied by input. So what is that? Sk transpose. Right? That's the input. Is it not? So it's simply delta Yk into Sk transpose. Is it not? Fine. So even the dimensions, if you see now, so this is the M cross N. So hope this is fine. Right? So now similarly you can update, of course, dou, I leave it to the exercise, dou Lk by dou U. Okay, so dou Lk by dou U, you can write it as what? Dou Lk by dou U is equal to what? Dou LK by dou SK, right, into X transpose, XK transpose. And dou LK by dou SK is nothing but delta SK into XK transpose. Delta SK, we already have it here. Okay. So this is how we can do it. But now these are all fine. One thing that is quite different from the back propagation that we have seen is the W. So if you want to write dou L by dou W, okay, it is not straightforward. The reason being, so if you want to write dou L by dou W, you need to depend upon, say, dou L by dou W is what you want to write. Okay, so this back propagation here, if you want to write, okay, it also depends upon the like previous states and so on. So all W is used, not just connected to one input, one output. Okay, this W is connected to several inputs and several outputs. Okay, so and hence actually its writing requires in some sense the back propagation through time. Okay, so this is referred to as back propagation through time. So we will see that in the next class. So how to write this? You just think of a little bit, but we will discuss this in more detail in the next class. Because when we want to write dou L by dou W, okay, essentially it involves dou L by dou SK how to bring, and then dou SK by dou W. Dou SK by dou W if you want to write. So dou SK by dou W, okay, this is also a function of W, and this is also W. Okay, so there are two variables which are functions of W. So writing dou SK by dou W is not very straightforward. You may need to apply UV rule kind of thing. But within the UV rule, this is again a function of W. The like SK minus 1 depends upon SK minus 2. Again, SK minus 2 is also a function of W. Okay, so it's not very straightforward. Okay, so we'll put questions here and then we will discuss in the next class. But if you have any quick questions on the recurrent neural networks, you can ask now. Okay, if there are no questions, thank you then.
Thanks.